Hello and welcome to the first vlog of my London series from the Ginger Nut Travelling Coffee Cup. I'm here at the London Transport Museum to have just a general look around and just see what they've got on offer. Hope you can join me. So here's the first exhibit that you come to at the London Transport Museum. London in the 1800s. You come in that lift, come straight up to the second floor and you work your way down. So you start off in London in the 1800s and you should end up all the way down there. Now, London has so many underground lines today, but do you know which one was the first? If you guessed the Metropolitan line, you guessed correctly. The groundbreaking project started in 1854. Hard to believe that's nearly 200 years ago. Just shows how young, in transport terms, the London Underground actually is. So this is how they built the original underground lines, digging up a massive amount of earth and then sending the railway through. And if you can just see there's the line coming out of that tunnel. And here's one of the original Metropolitan line trains. Imagine the amount of steam that came out of that. The amount of soot that you'd have at every station when this came in. Thank goodness that technology's moved on and we now have electrical trains. And there's one of the old school carriages. Which normally, in a normal environment, you would be able to go in. But the London Transport Museum are doing everything they can to help prevent the spread of the current pandemic. It even had a ladies only section on this train. Shows how far we've come in 200 years. Starting to take the shape of something that very recognisable to most people who come to London. And as you can see, no funnel at the top to direct all the steam. So it started to change into trains that we recognise today. 1923 these trains are from. And here is an old school, old style tube train. Obviously can't go in. Something that's probably commonplace on tubes now. And there's a picture of what London looked like in 1900. And what a century that was. Now if you come to London, that's probably one sign that you recognise about more than any others. The underground Randall. And population census in 2001, 7 million people live in London. There we go, we start to get a bit more modern. These were water-propelled lifts, or water pressure-propelled lifts, sorry. How times have changed. And there is an escalator. And this one was built in 1936 and changed in 1960. Here's the start of London's Underground as we know it today. And the tube started to get bigger and bigger in the early 1890s. Here's a map of the Central London Railway, which ran through some of the more well-known stations in London into one of the biggest interchanges that exist now in London, Bank Station. So just a little bit of history as to how the tube was saved at the start of the 20th century. Starting to get into the more recent times of the tube. Very old school layout sign there. London Underground Randall, as it still is to this day. Red circle, blue line in the middle. But when it comes to London Transport, there's another familiar sight that is probably known the world over when you think of London Transport. It is, of course, the Route Master, the original London bus. Now, if you watch my Manchester Transport Museum vlog, you would know that there is one up there in Manchester. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. Now, here's the shape that I think everyone in London, pretty much anyone who visits London, will probably recognise. The tube. Bit of a different with this exhibit, we can actually walk straight through it. Mind the gap, obviously. With the Northern Line route on the top. It still is, if you go on any tube train at the minute in London, the maps are exactly where they are on this train. And there's the evolution of the tube. So the top one is from 1906. The second one is from 1923. The London Transport one is from 1938. And probably the shape and colour that we all know today was from 1992. And they were all fitted with automatic doors. Now, when you think of London, you can't really think of London without thinking of the times it went to war. They actually have an exhibit here of what happened during the war. An old uniform, general uniform. Just that when you come to London, those tube tunnels that we all take for granted to get wherever we need to go in London, back in between 1939 and 1945, they were used as air raid shelters. You just can't imagine like being told to leave your house and get underground and save yourself basically from the Nazi bombardment that London really suffered. But hey, London's still standing and the underground is still going, so it just shows that when it was built, I mean, yeah, they didn't have really World War in mind, but it was there when we needed it in our hour of need, and it's still going today. And there's a sign to say which stations would open during air raid alerts, and also tickets that you needed to actually get into them. Could you imagine having to wear that? A hard hat and a gas mask. Thankfully, in this day and age, we don't have to. All we've got to wear is a face mask. And here's how London's transport's evolved in terms of ticketing. Now it's currently hoisted of 33.6 passengers a minute, but they've got plans to make it 57.8 passengers a minute. The final things you come to before you get to the exit are these two route masters. So we know London for the route master, the tube, and for something else. It is, of course, the Hackney taxi cab. Something that is seen almost everywhere on Britain streets these days. And these taxi drivers have to learn everything. They have to know all the shortcuts and everything. To become a London taxi driver, you really have to know your way around London. One thing these buses allowed people to do was, while it was moving, to jump on and off at the back of the bus. I'd love to see someone try and make a bus like that now and see all the health and safety notices they'd get. They've got scale models of different stations across London, and also their most recent breakthrough, which is Crossrail. Got an old school bus here as well, next to the two route masters, still with its destinations on the top. There's the different types of uniform they wear, and also the fact that they celebrate Pride as they should. Everyone's different, and also all the different hats that they've got, and then the bright orange jackets for the people who do maintenance and just general work on the underground system. Now this here simulates the tilt test that every London bus has to go into. It has to tilt to 10 degrees wonder it's gone further than that this time. So before a London bus goes into service, it has to go through that test. I can't think of many roads in London that are that banked. Watch these traffic lights. Press that. Quite a cool interactive thing to do here at the London Transport Museum, of all the things that are open. There's something that's not seen on London streets anymore, a trolley bus. Why is it called a trolley bus? Because of those cables up there. It's quite similar to the Blackpool tramway, which I've also done a vlog on. I'll put a link to that video in the description down below also. Here's the evolution of a tram. Now at the end of the tour, you have the shop. Check this out. If you like your London transport maquettes, you can also get a cushion. But if you really want to splash out, you can get yourself a sofa for £2,100. Don't throw my pineapple too, please, if I came home with this. Got a lot of tube merchandise, t-shirts, even one with a tube map. Christmas, they've got Christmas jumpers, £10 off a Christmas jumper. Got London Transport Museum baubles as well, and just general cushions. Couldn't think of a worse thing to go home with, because I think my missus would absolutely kill me. So that'll just about do it for today's vlog at the London Transport Museum. I do hope you really enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, please like the video, comment and share the videos. It really would help the channel. The next video you'll see will be at the London RAF Museum. I do hope you enjoy me for that one.